What's up, family? I'm walking to the gym again. But I want to jump on real quick and talk to you guys about something that I see happening a lot, um, especially in America. You know what I mean? I know I have people from all over Switzerland, Australia, Austria, London, South Africa, all over watching these videos, you know what I mean? And I can only speak on America because that's where I live, you know what I mean? And I'm sure the reality is human nature is the same everywhere, for the most part. And so, man, we have gotten so comfortable in life that we started taking people for granted, you know what I mean? We started taking things for granted, and man, that hurts, you know what I mean? What I mean? Because I know the karmic consequences of that, if you could say that, because I took my family for granted as a little kid. Growing up, I was mad and angry at them for, the way I was brought up, mad and angry at the fact that I grew up in a Christian household and we couldn't do anything. Everything was a freaking sin. And I couldn't stand it. I hated it. You know what I mean? I detested the way that I grew up. And what God had to show me was, Elijah, it wasn't perfect, but you got ungrateful. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't ideal, but you had a home. It wasn't ideal, but look at all the things that you got to do. Look at all the places you got to go. It wasn't the best place for you, but it was the best place for you. What I mean by that, it's not what you wanted, but it's what you needed to help you in your growth and development. It was what you needed to give you some experiences so that you could speak on these things later on in life. And they kept you safe to the best of their ability. They taught you to the best of their ability. Now you're mad and angry because you wanted more from them. You expected more from them. But what if they didn't have more to give you? What if they gave you their all? And you're sitting here complaining and whining and bitching and moaning about, how fucked up your childhood was and how these people didn't love you and whoop-doo-doo. You taking them for granted. You took them for granted. Okay. You're going to have to learn this the hard way. And you're going to have to grow up and you're going to have kids. You're going to have people come in your life to take you for granted. You're going to have to grow up and figure this shit out the hard way. You're going to have women come into your life and just take you for granted. You're going to have friends come in your life that you love and would do anything for, and they're going to take you for granted. Why? Because I got to teach you some fucking things. I got to fucking humble you. You know what I mean? You thought your parents or your auntie and grandmother, you thought they did you such a disservice by how they raised you and all that other bullshit, not even understanding they were doing the best that they could. They gave you all that they had. And your ungrateful ass sitting here wasn't bringing shit to the table, but you mad because you wanted more from them. You expected more from them. Okay, motherfucker, you're going to see how that feel. And it's going to be magnified, multiplied 100 times the shit you went through. Why? Because I got to get you to understand this. I got to get you to stop taking people for granted. I got to get you to stop fucking complaining. I got to see that when people are giving you what they have, man, they're giving you the best that they have. You know what I mean? What fucking right do you have to sit there and put people down and to judge people and demand more from them when they ain't got more to give you? They can't give you what they ain't got. We got to grow up. And the reality, family, a lot of us, we grew up in toxic situations. You know what I mean? We've had people cheat on us and dog us out and break our hearts and all that other shit, right? I get that. How many people have you taken for granted? And it's quick, and it's a trip because we're quick to point out how these other people dog us out. It's quick for us, it's easy for us to point the finger at our bosses that don't appreciate us. It's easy for us to point our finger at our coworkers who's lazy as fucking show up work late, take long breaks, long lunches, and want to leave early. You know what I mean? and then demand to get the same fucking pay. It's easy for us to point the finger at everybody else, how they're dogging you out, how they're mistreating you. How many people have you taken for granted? How many people have you watched on YouTube or you've gone somewhere and they've sown into your life? They've helped you understand and learn some things about life that you've taken for granted. But then you point the finger at all these other women, all these other dudes that's taking you for granted. And you still doing the same shit that you're accusing them of doing. Man, we have to grow up. We have to grow up. We have to humble ourselves and learn to sit there in our madness, in our mess, in our foolishness. And when you're pointing the fingers at others, when you're looking at others and you're criticizing them and you're talking about what they ain't doing and what they could be doing and what do, man, before you start speaking on that, ask God to show you you. Ask God to show you the person in the mirror. This person is showing me this. This person is doing this to me. Why? Because obviously I'm guilty of the same fucking thing. Obviously I've done this in the past. Obviously I'm probably doing this to somebody else and I'm not even aware of the fact that I'm taking them for granted. I'm not even aware of the fact that I'm taking my boss for granted. I'm not even aware of the fact that I'm taking my co-workers for granted. I'm not even aware of the fact that I've taken my family for granted. And now I'm mad at other people for taking me for granted. Man, you're going to keep going through that shit until you learn the lesson. You know what I mean? You're going to keep going through that shit until you realize that, man, you're guilty of the same shit that you're mad at everybody else for doing. You can sit there and act all self-righteous you want to. You can sit there and act all pious and good-natured you want to. You're guilty of taking people for granted. You're guilty of taking certain situations and experiences in your life for granted. That's why you're getting taken for granted. I love you guys. Happy healing. Peace.